passionate about adventurous activities.
Yes.
We have a fun segment organized for you.
Okay.
This is called the This or That segment, where I will give you a couple of options and you have to choose one amongst them.
I will try to choose just one.
Sure. Are you ready, sir?
I'm ready.
Sure, sir. Would you prefer early morning training runs or evening swims?
I think anybody who knows me is going to find it very easy to get the answer to that one, but it's going to be late evening swims. I'm a sucker for either going for an evening swim when the temperature is just right, or if not a swim, sometimes a workout late in the evening as well. But yeah, it's hands down the evening swim that would be my pick over these two.
Would you prefer exploring uncharted dive sites or discovering wildlife on safari?
Oh, that's a very interesting one. I would like to pick the first option, but I don't think I'm an advanced enough diver, to be honest, to be able to go to uncharted dive sites. And honestly, I also think that the unpredictability of a wildlife safari, like you could do the same safari in the same part of Africa, for instance, on 3 consecutive days, and every single day your experience is going to be significantly different from what your experience was on the other days, right? So I think that way, I think the sheer unpredictability of going on a wildlife safari is probably the reason why I would pick the latter.
Wow, sir. Would you prefer cycling through the mountainous terrain or running along a scenic coastal path?
I think it's a tough one. I would probably pick the running along a scenic coastal path. I'm not a huge fan of trekking on mountains. I think the scenic path I'm usually a sucker for. If I can get a car and if I can just drive, I think that's the easiest. But I'm giving away I'm giving away my laziness with that answer. But with scenic drives, just being out in the open road, just taking in the sights and enjoying everything around you. I think there are very few things in life that give you that kind of appreciation for nature and appreciation for life in general, and helps you sort of disintegrate from everything else that's going on in your life, right? Even if you have other challenges that unfortunately are bogging you down, when you go through an experience like this, you almost forget about everything else, right? And you play some Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara songs in the background, and you just go for a nice little walk or run or drive along a scenic coast. So that would be my option.
Really nice, sir. Would you prefer triathlons or wildlife safaris?
Again, I think that's a bit of an easy answer, because I think the process of training for a triathlon is extremely excruciating, in the sense that you have to put in at least 6 months of disciplined effort, and the discipline is one thing, but it takes a toll on your body, right? When you're training for an endurance event, you end up losing a lot of strength, you end up losing a lot of muscle in the process as well, and what you gain in terms of stamina, you also lose in terms of strength and muscle. So I think it's a big trade-off. And I'm not a huge fan of doing it every single year. Sometimes I do it when I feel like my stamina and my endurance abilities have gone down. But in general, I like to maintain a bit of a balance between strength training and doing cardio-intensive exercises such as training for triathlons. So with that in mind, I think the easy answer would be just going for a wildlife safari instead. I could do that all day long and not get bored of it.
Wow, sir. The last option,
Sure.
Last question. Would you prefer scuba diving with whale sharks or swimming with dolphins?
Oh, that's a difficult one again. I'll tell you an interesting story. So I have a tendency to go to the most, relatively obscure options in search of either like some kind of wildlife, whether it's, land mammals or something in the ocean. For whale sharks in particular, I've tried a couple of, there were a couple of trips that I planned over the last few years, specifically with the goal of trying to spot a whale shark. So I'd gone to Mozambique, where they have this really famous beach called Tofu Beach, which is famous for whale sharks. And I tried to go on an ocean safari over there to spot some of these whale sharks. So I did a trip on my first day in Mozambique, and we didn't spot any whale sharks. And then on the second day, I tried to do another trip just to see if I could push my luck a little bit. And on the second day, unfortunately, there weren't enough people. There's a bare minimum of people that needs to be there in order to go out on a safari, right? You need to fill up the boat with at least 6 to 8 people. And we only had half the number of people who had registered for that day. So I basically bought all the seats for the remaining seats that went unoccupied on the boat, and gave that money to the tour operator, to the safari operator. And then with just half, with a boat that was just half full, we ended up going out and looking for whale sharks, and unfortunately, even with all of that, I didn't end up spotting any whale sharks. But then recently, about 3 months ago, I'd done a trip to Maldives, where again I wanted to go to an island specifically famous for whale sharks. I believe it's called the Ningaloo Reef, if I'm not mistaken. So there, again, we'd done a similar thing. We'd gone out on a boat, and this time I actually got to see whale sharks. And I think that experience has very few things in life that remind you of the magnificence and the awe-inspiring sort of gravitas of nature, right? More than just seeing a beautiful but ultimately docile and friendly creature like a whale shark up close in person when you're able to see it that close. So I think that's definitely been a bucket list item, and I would pick that 10 out of 10 times for sure.
Thank you so much, sir. It's really nice to get your understanding and your perspectives in terms of, if you were given choice in terms of adventurous activities, which one would you go for? And it's nice to see how you love nature, which is rare in today's times.
No, I love your questions, and it's been such a fun round answering these questions. So thank you so much for doing the research and putting these questions together. It's incredibly sweet.
Thank you so much. Moving on. Given your experience working across different countries in various work environments, what's your take on work from home versus hybrid or office setups? What do you prefer and why?
I think it's a really timely question as well, right? Because I think everybody is having this debate right now with regards to what exactly is the right balance. On the one hand, you have jobs in which people can take the flexibility to work remotely or to work from home, not have to go into the office. And then there are other jobs out there that, if you're a plumber or if you're a car mechanic, you need to go to wherever your office is, right? You can't just work from home or sit in front of a laptop on a beach in Mexico and then do your work, right? So I think there's a little bit of inequity there with regards to how certain jobs allow you the flexibility to do that and certain jobs don't. But I think if you're able to look past that, one of the advantages, I think, of a hybrid model in particular, which I see with a lot of technology companies, the way we're doing it right now, is to sort of have a combination between both, right? You do have certain days in the office where people are required to come in and you're able to maximize collaboration and in-person interaction during those days. Mm-hmm. And then other days, for example, a lot of tech companies have this 2:3 model where Mondays and Fridays people can work from home, and then Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays they're expected to go into the office. So in the middle of the week, when people are most productive, you try to get as much of that in-person collaboration and ideation as possible. And then closer to the weekends, you have people who can take some flexibility back. So if they want to work from home, they can do that. If they are productive enough to finish their work by a Friday morning, then they can take a little bit of the afternoon off and have an extended weekend. So I think those sorts of things in the industries where that sort of flexibility is practical, I think that balance ultimately is, I find, quite an effective option rather than mandating just one or the other, because there are sort of, there's a good mix of advantages and disadvantages on either side. But I find personally the hybrid model works quite well.
Thank you so much, sir. Really nice to know that it's important to be dynamic in today's times and make changes accordingly to your work that is needed.
Absolutely.
That is some really interesting perspective, sir. Before we wrap up, is there a particular mantra or quote that you live by? Something that guides you in both your career as well as your personal life?
I am really tempted to throw a quote from either The Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones or something like that, but I'm not going to do that because I don't think it's going to be insightful enough. I think there was one quote that I came across recently which I think might resonate with a lot of people, which is to say that you have this one wild and precious life, what are you going to do with it, right? And I think that's something that really struck a chord with me, because I am very much a huge advocate of just living in the moment and just trying to make the most of whatever opportunities and chances that life is able to give you in the moment. So rather than having to necessarily sort of suck it up and deal with a lot of things that you're not happy with, deal with a lot of things that you're not happy about in the present, in the hope that there is one day in the future that you might be happy, rather than doing that, just try to have a consistent balance across time so that at any given point of time, you're working really hard and you're really disciplined and you're motivated about the things that you're passionate about. But at the same time, you're also able to carve out time for yourself to really enjoy this wild and precious life, right? Because you're not going to get this again. And there is absolutely no guarantee that, that you're going to see a certain age in your life or that you're going to experience certain things at a later point in your life. So just try to make the most of that. And I think having the consistent balance, for me personally, it works a lot better than necessarily having to, sacrifice happiness in the present in the hope that in some distant future I might be happy because of the hard work and effort that I'm putting in today. That doesn't personally strike a chord with me as much as just making the most of the present time.
Thank you so much, sir, for your time. It was really fun interacting with you and getting to understand how to balance your personal as well as your professional life and how it is to follow your passion truly. It was an honor to pick your brain and to get your perspectives on various things. And thank you, viewers, for watching today's podcast. We really hope you enjoyed. Stay tuned and please take care. Thank you.
Like, share, and subscribe to the YouTube channel right here.